That is greater. From laughter before wins.
Radio Free Innsmouth, episode 392. You know, I bring up the band Enslaved a lot. I'm always like, oh, this sounds like something Enslaved would do. This is an Enslaved style riff. This is Enslaved style songwriting. Might as well actually do an episode on them so you can figure out what the hell I'm talking about when I say stuff like that. So here you go. Boom. Episode 392 is about Enslaved. And they're absolutely one of my favorite bands, if you couldn't tell by how often I mention them. But my reasoning behind that stance appears to be substantially different from most people within the metal scene. You see, my stance on Enslaved, it faces opposition on two sides. Side one, people that are really into Enslaved post Bloodhem, I guess. You know, Rune, Isa, Below the Lights, Axioma Ethica Odini, however you say that one. A lot of people that are into these albums, they'll say like, yeah, I guess early Enslaved was some really good early Norwegian black metal, but I like them when they got progressive.
Wrong, sir. Wrong.
Look, I'll give you those albums might have more trappings of 70s style progressive rock with the Hammond organs and the clean singing and whatnot. But if we're talking about actual progression away from the standard rock and metal paradigms, if anything, those albums are regressive and the early Enslaved full lengths are the truly progressive ones. I mean, yeah, Isa and Monumention, I'll listen to them occasionally, you know, they're fine, you know, for what they are.
Don't take me out of context, fucking retards, because they always do.
They're not bad albums at all, but the real outre progressive wacko stuff is exclusively to be found on early Enslaved albums. And then the other side of the two-pronged attack on my love of Enslaved, I guess you could call it slightly more boneheaded metalheads that are fond of busting out what I might call the Dunning-Kruger guffaw. You know the type. They'll see a character wearing a cape like, didn't these guys see The Incredibles? No capes, they're gonna get sucked into the engine. The sort of person that thinks spouting out tautologies from the book of conventional wisdom makes them seem smart. You tell these type of people that you're into Enslaved, they're gonna be like, what the fuck kind of
sissy ass pink panty wearing fucking poser
shit is that? Why don't you listen to a real black metal band like insert boring fucking band here? No way, man. The early Enslaved, the Enslaved I'm into, I guarantee it in all likelihood destroys whatever your favorite black metal band is. They're in a very similar position to Therion or Sentenced, where, yeah, honestly, the later stuff isn't even that bad, but it doesn't hold a candle to the earliest stuff. And the reputation that later stuff gets kind of drags down that really high quality extreme early material to the point where it's honestly rather underrated nowadays. And hopefully by producing this episode, I can do my part as far as rectifying that sorry state of affairs goes.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
Hey, shut up! Shut the fuck up! You fucking retard!
So if you're unaware, Enslaved actually started out as a death metal band called Phobia, formed by Ivar and Grutla, who have kind of been the two constant members of Enslaved going back years and years. And eventually, they changed their name to Enslaved, and they shifted their style to black metal right around when pretty much everybody else in Norway was doing the same thing. Given that being the case at the time, you'd think these guys would just be another trend hopper. You know, it's gonna be another dime a dozen black metal band.
Wrong, sir. Wrong.
Even from their earliest demo days, these guys were pushing the boundaries something fierce. There's a song on there called Heimdallr that then showed up on their real first full-length album, Vikingligr, that represents something of a crystallized moment in time where these guys leave regular metal behind, pretty much right in the middle of the track. Because as you've no doubt been able to discern thus far, the first half of this song is pretty fucking necro black metal. In fact, I had a guest guitar solo from Euronymous on it. And yeah, there's a little bit of keyboard shit going on as we get to the track's climactic midpoint, but it's nothing terribly out of the ordinary. I guess it's pretty ahead of its time with the keyboards, particularly in regards to the progressive build-up here. But still, it's not that different from like early Emperor or something. Definitely some solid black metal, that said, but then this fucking happens. Everything goes away except the bass. Also, holy shit, dude, Grutla's bass on early Enslaved, he was not fucking around. But the real standout here is the subtle depth of orchestration, increasing guitar distortion and drum work, then doubling up on that drone, bolstering it with some keyboards, some acoustic guitars. You telling me this shit isn't progressive? Who else was fucking around with sound layering in black metal this subtle a degree in 1992? And then this fucking massive riff erupts out of those droning sounds. I gotta think, if you were just getting into Norwegian black metal back in the day, you slapped this one in the tape deck, you're like, oh, this is pretty cool so far, but then that section's just like, what the fuck is this band doing, dude? It's fucking wild. You can hear them leaving normal black metal behind, much the same way that Norwegian black metal left death metal behind. It's absolutely trance-inducing in a completely different way than either Burzum or Darkthrone, two bands whom I would consider to be, along with Enslaved, innovators and masters of creating trance-like black metal in the Norwegian context. If you're one of those people that's actually smart enough to be in the early Enslaved and you haven't listened to the Yggdrasill demo, you're really missing out, because it's not just like demo versions of songs that show up with better recording quality later on. There's giant epic length tracks on here that were never re-recorded anywhere else. My personal favorite is Njundaheim, which again kind of shows them making the jump from where extreme metal was at the time to the outer stratosphere of innovation. Because this track in particular, the way it opens, it sounds like they constructed it around jamming the opening riff from Death's Denial of Life off the Scream Bloody Gore album, which if you don't remember goes a little something like... And from there, it does some classic death metal songwriting tricks, revolutionary in terms of extremity for 1987, and certainly a classic death metal song. But we're in 1992, and you're going to be utilizing the Denial of Life riff like that, and you're trying to push the genre forward, you're going to need to do some weird shit with that, and Enslaved definitely does. And yeah, at least in my ears, that's definitely a riff that was created by jamming a death song. But the way they come out of that riff, you're in this crazy fucking fanfare shit, definitely quite majestic, and then this follow-up riff kind of bouncing off that initial Denial of Life riff is a great example of black metal counterpoint. But then you hit this major league opening up section, much like there was on the song Heimdallr, with this ghostly sounding ambient riff that is of course bolstered by some spectral keyboards and eventually even some very well done acoustic guitar without losing any of that black metal heaviness and evil. Enslaved at this point in time was a very special band, and much like they kind of left normal Norwegian black metal behind on the Yggdrasill demo, when they put out the Hordanes EP as a split with Emperor a couple years later, they're leaving behind the Yggdrasill sound for something even greater. And again, there's another really good crystallized example of that on this EP, because there's a song called Allfather Odin that was on the Yggdrasill demo and then was completely reinvented for the Hordanesland EP. The signature standout moment of this song on the Yggdrasill demo was probably this bold ostinato of a melodic riff. And obviously, that's some sick black metal shit, goes great with those watery keyboards in the background. But when that same part happens on the Hordanesland version, it's like a completely new take on that whole concept. It's like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like the ghost of that Yggdrasill riff from earlier kind of calling back to you from across the mist of time, but it's been warped from its time in the underworld in a really subtle and strange way. You'll also notice the production on that is just all around way fucking better. Instrumental separation, perfectly done, still raw and nasty sounding, but you can hear all of the crazy stuff that's going on, and that's very important because this is some crazy, complex black metal. The Hordanesland and the full-length album Vikingligr, they both come out very close to each other, and honestly, they're similar enough that I kind of just take it all as one massive 80-minute long album. They're both pretty much the peak of Enslaved, but even if you're just looking at the full length, it's an hour long, it's 5 tracks, all of which are about 11 minutes long, except for the remake of Heimdallr. Already that sounds way more progressive to me than anything going on with later Enslaved. Enslaved. Earlier on I mentioned how trance-like Enslaved can get, and how they do it in a way that's completely different than most trance-like ambient black metal. That's absolutely kind of the main draw for me of this era of Enslaved. Like, the first time I heard Vikingligr, it actually put me to sleep. But in like a good way, it put me in like a trance. I was connecting with some kind of Norse pagan oversoul shit. I don't know, maybe it's the half Norwegian blood in me. But you get a song like Vetronot, it's got two different sort of locus points for black metal trance that if you were to listen to them in isolation, it would almost seem like these had to have come from two different songs, but they blend it so effectively. And this song starts off really aggressive too. Blasting out of the gate, Trym Thorsen, probably more famous for being the drummer for Emperor nowadays after Faust went to jail. But for me, he's always going to be the Enslaved guy. But now we're going into trance territory without losing any of that blasting black metal character. It's almost like it's grinding it into your brain. The guitar work is really cool here too. If you pay attention to the right hand technique, that kind of weird fluttery motion it does in the tail of the riff. And then eventually it does slow down to kind of further bring you into that trance and allow these very cosmic, almost krautrock style keyboards to take you away somewhere. But then it abruptly shifts towards that second trance focal point, and this one's a fucking doozy. This descending riff right here, super aggressive sounding, not a normal sort of ambient black metal riff, but once that blast beat kicks in, it somehow does become very trance-like in an aggressive way. Maybe it's a berserker trance. It helps that the guitars have this sort of liquid quality to them, where they very easily slide past each other in slight variations that almost seem like they'd be out of sync, but somehow it all kind of comes together in this giant wave of sound. It's almost like ambient music. And there are more riff-based songs on this album, little less ambient and sublime than that, but even the riffier tracks are still intensely spiritual and haunting. Like the opener, Lifande Lief under Hamri, living life under the hammer. The way this one begins, man.
Wow, man, freaked out!
You come in through this wall of noise that a keyboard emerges from. It's almost like you're remembering a black metal song from a dream. But then Trym's drums are there to straighten you out, let you know, this ain't no dream, this shit's happening. And you got this weird, waltzy, fucking keyboard riff that's kind of the main source of melody over an intense black metal drone and another guitar layer sort of bouncing off that keyboard riff before you go into this ascending, almost kind of thrashy, but a little bit bouncier and more liquid sort of riff. God damn, Trym's a good drummer. He's up there with Frost, dude. Then you come down into some weird, trancey, but also palm-muted black metal shit. Again, a really dreamlike sort of atmosphere, while still maintaining a lot of aggression. And when we eventually hit that big slowdown, it's fucking intense. Real trance-like shit, hazy fucking chords. The guitar layering, there's just so much shit going on if you really listen with a careful ear. And then when those keyboards kick in, that's some fucking roots of Yggdrasill, Nidhogg, sending insults up the trunk with the squirrel level shit, gnawing at the very roots of existence. Malice Striker, feeding on corpses of the millennia of unhonored dead. And then this bass line happens, going back to those initial motifs, and
Do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Everyone always calls it the James Bond part. Yeah, it kinda is, and it's fucking awesome. Great fucking song, amazing album opener. But then every song on this album is fucking sick. You already heard Vetronot, that was awesome. Midgard's Eldar got that crazy fucking acoustic shit going on, it's amazing. Fucking Heimdallr, you heard the demo version.
Guess what?
The album version also slaps. But perhaps the best song on this album, the closer, Norvegir, entirely instrumental, the most trance-like track Enslaved ever did. And you've seen how they do the trance thing, so you know the instrumental is going to be a banger. Okay, get this fucking album if you don't have it. And the follow-up came out the same fucking year. I mean, obviously, Vikingligr was supposed to come out a lot earlier, but, you know, with the Varg Euronymous thing, the guy running the label kind of fucking died, so it took a while for that one to come out. So you got debut in sophomore the same year, and that sophomore album, Frost, also a certified black metal classic. And yet they also are moving in like a completely new direction again. This one's a much more aggressive album, particularly when that really sharp guitar sound fucking kicks in. But at the same time, it's still very cleanly done, and you can discern everything that's going on. And it's still got those weird kind of transition sections sections that were such a big part of earlier Enslaved. Little acoustic interlude there actually makes me think of Sabbath, the UK one, not the Japanese one. Then Trem does another sick drum fill. And there's some real percussive riffing. A lot of this album has a lot of percussive riffing. Almost kind of death metal-y in terms of riff intensity without losing any of that black metal feeling. And Grudla's vocals on this one, fucking gnarly. Everybody talks about Vard, Isan, Nocturnal Culto. Not enough people bring up how fucking evil Grudla sounded back in the day. Oh god, this riff section. Again, super aggressive, and it turns into like acoustic guitar thrash, but not like an acoustic interlude. Like the thrash is going on the same time as the acoustic guitars. And from there, you can tell we're going to be going into one of those signature, nobody does it quite like Enslaved level trance blast sections. For me, that's kind of what sticks out about Trem Thorson's drumming is this guy has like 101 different ways to do a crazy fucking blast beat. And it's perfect for that combination of ambient trance with blasting black metal aggression. And then the keyboards, they're back, they're zany, fucking incredible album all around. The guitar sound is so fucking sharp. It's like someone's slipping a dagger in between your ribs. And this one's kind of got the same thing going on as the Hordanes EP and Vikingligr, where just like every song's a fucking classic. Can't even hit them all. One, we're kind of pressed for time. And two, I don't want to spoil what's going on in this album.
그러니까 엄마 아빠가 그거를 해주면 이게 하드렌즈니까.
Alright, one more. Svarte Vidar. This one's an incredibly riff-based song. Starts out almost deceptively calm. Very much a bass-led sort of pagan metal riff. Then they let that melody open up and breathe with the keyboards. And eventually you hit the main sort of riff matrix of the song that all the other movements flow through, and it's this real fucking aggressive, sharply dissonant sort of droning riff. Gotta love those nasty vocals there too. But when the song hits its inevitable sort of turnaround inside out type section, that's when it gets real fucking good. This bit right here, this is what I call an Enslaved style melody. Nobody else really does it quite like they do. Just all weird and bendy, and that little two-note bass guitar accent's amazing. Then big drum fill into some weird Enslaved version of thrash type shit that ends up going fully fucking wacky psychedelic. There's voices of Viking ghosts yelling at you. Eventually an icy fucking organ shows up for full
Boom! Haunted house!
effect that it's just the best thing ever. There's a whole album full of songs, roughly that level of quality, so obviously this is another 10 out of 10 from the Enslaved boys. But here's where I had to rush through Frost. I really wanted to talk about Eld, because there's this fella out there named Brett Stevens, who seems to be the only guy that agrees with me about early Enslaved, except when it comes to Eld. He hates Eld, the third Enslaved album. He says it's carnival music, it's circus music, it's you get in and out of the hot tub music, it doesn't change your life at all. I could not disagree more. For one, the riff craft on Eld would make fucking Arguslent blush. I mean, look at this shit.
Dominating.
Or fucking this part.
Monster kill.
I don't know how you can hate this stuff if you've got a metal bone in your body. But the real standout for me on this album is actually the 16-minute, I believe, long opener. 793 Slage om Limdesfarne. I mean, maybe this is where the circus music thing comes from, because it's a long Enslaved song, but it's not built like the earlier long Enslaved songs. It's not that sort of subtle ambient thing. It's a much more straightforward riff-to-riff narrative progression. But what a fucking narrative progression it is. It's cool to see them sort of experimenting with this kind of thing while maintaining that level of early Enslaved sophistication. It's got this crazy fucking buildup I've cut out about about half of it, just to get you to the more metal parts, but rest assured the ambient parts at the beginning are sick too. Then the distorted guitars come in, and it's not Trim on drums anymore. Later on, Enslaved, you get a whole lot of different drummers, most notably Deirdre from Gehenna. But this guy, Harold Helgeson, he's only on this album. I can't find much else that he's done. He does a sick fucking job though. But speaking of the unexpected, the harsh vocals take a long time to show up. Like, he comes in clean, then you got some lengthy instrumental kind of counterpoint sections, sort of waltzing around. And it's all quality Enslaved style riffage with that level of ambient trance type stuff, just in a more normalized riff-based style, before we get back into the reintroduction of that intro kind of melodic world with this wash of guitars. And there's some clean vocal parts I'm skipping over here, because there's no harsh vocals until like 8 minutes into the song. And right before they come in, you can feel it coming, with the riff getting a lot more intense. And I do mean intense, like this shit is fucking frenzied. To me, it feels like the perfect evolution of the Vetronaut style of merging two different loci of kind of trance black metal ideas. Then there's another abrupt shift, which I guess pissed off Brad Stevens, made him call him circus metal, but to me it sounds like a fairly natural development of the sort of unfolding sections you would expect on the first two Enslaved albums. But the way they come out of it, back into the percussive riffing, over which they've got these like chiming sort of riffs, mixed with the pizzicato synth strings, that's fucking spectacular. And I gotta think, this basically sounds like post-black metal, except way fucking better than any post-black metal band, and way before any of those bozos were even around. Downright rhapsodic, ecstatic stuff. As is the next and kind of final section of the song, which takes a turn towards the Hammerheart era Bathory-ish, which was always probably a big influence on Enslaved. So it makes sense that when they do a song that's like a whole concept about the first ever well-documented Viking raid, they're gonna be hitting you with that Bathory shit. To me, Eld, that's the third Enslaved masterpiece in a row. Respectfully disagree with anybody that shits on this album. I think it's great, and I'm actually kind of pissed off because I always assumed it was bad until like maybe 10 years ago when I finally heard it for myself after being a diehard for Frost and Vikingligr Veldi going back to when I was in high school. The only people that were talking positively about those albums back in the day were the same people that sang Eld is where Enslaved fell off. So I took their word for it, just assumed it sucked. Lesson learned, I don't ever listen to other people anymore.
Who are they? It's Rubes. Which one? Who the fuck are you talking to? Fuck them.
After Eld, they put out Bloodhem. It was a more aggressive, almost kind of Marduk sounding album. Everything after that's the prog Enslaved, so-called prog Enslaved, that everybody likes so much. And yeah, that stuff's fine, but that early shit, dude, that's my Enslaved. That's what I think of in my head when I think of Enslaved. Still some of the best shit of all time. Hopefully I managed to convince you that over the course of this episode. But hey, even if you disagree, you're wrong. But thanks for watching this or listening to it or however you consumed it. And I'll see you next time.
It's a good cigarette. These 2 packs literally cost me $22 Cigarettes are going up in prices and it's ridiculous. But thank you, Tyler, for your $1 to PayPal. Appreciate you. Well, so